TESOL. We've been here every single year. We're here every Friday about this time. Next time, and we teach and we also give different recordings. You can find it at the American TESOL YouTube channel. Just search for ATESOL, ATESOL, and you'll find hundreds of videos that you can watch of these webinar recordings. We also give certifications. If you're part of American TESOL already, then those are free. We have for advanced TESOL, we have for teaching children, and then the course that I instruct and wrote is the esltech.com, and it's really easy to go and attend because it's online. So today we're talking about, and that's also one of the modules of the esltech.com course, is teaching. So one of the modules is teaching writing to digital learners. So what I want to talk to you about is different types of web tools and apps that can really help your learners be able to read, write, research, do research writing, essays, or just something simple like digital storytelling. David Crystal, who is one of the most famous linguists there is in the world, and I've had the opportunity to see him many, many times and also meet him in person. And he writes lots of books. And what he talks about is the way that technology and our language has kind of influenced each other. And what he has found during his research is that now we are more literate. He says that we are more literate because our devices allow us to read and write every single day. Like we just scan our phones and things like that, and we're constantly reading information. A lot of teachers complain. They say, "Oh, well, we have." They say students stay too long on their devices, like 12 hours or something. Well, that's 12 hours that they're reading, writing, listening, watching, viewing, and then sometimes maybe even creating, adding different types of resources for people to share. So by doing all of that, they're constantly, that's learning, and those are the foundations of language. So they're constantly getting experience with that. Then you tend to see, and some of the ways that they're doing that, and you may see that in different social networks, it's like Facebook, Instagram, they're texting, they're blogging, Twitter, WhatsApp, and other different types of social networks, depending on the ones your students like, Snapchatting, all of those, but they require those types. Now, when you're teaching, it's different, and to really get students interested and really get them to use those skills to be able to have academic writing that is intelligent, it's important we step in and we guide them. And so these are a few projects that you can do. You can have them blog, you can have them create comics, you can have them do podcasts, they can do essays online using things like Google Docs. They can do multimedia essays. I'm going to show you some of those things like that. They can make digital scrapbooks. They can make digital portfolios or e-portfolios. They can create infographics, ebooks, e-zines, and digital newspapers, posters. And I'm going to show you a lot of different tools for that. So if you want them to do that, one of the ways to really get them to be able to do different types of writing, and I think is really important. So when I begin a lesson, and the end portion, the output is the writing. Okay, so depending on what the objectives are, we start with that. But I think teaching the process, the writing process, is really important. So we have to get their brains ready to be able to do that. And when I've taught writing, I teach writing to teens. And also to students that were doing their masters and PhDs. Part of that, if they were writing an argumentative essay, then they would use like the Tolman. We use the Tolman method, and they had to fill that out. So there's a graphic organizer for any kind of writing you can do. We have Venn diagrams, we have pro cons, we have compare contrast charts. And so depending on, I think if you use a graphic organizer at the very beginning, have them brainstorm, and that's going to make their writing improve a lot. So it's important that we do teach them the different stages and and walk them through that, because when a lot of times when you go to college, and me, I teach at college level a lot, and I hear a lot of college professors complain about this too. Students go in and they can't write a paper. They don't know how to do a citations, research, or anything like that. And that's because they haven't been through the process. So they may have completed the paper like that, but if they understand the process and the different parts of that writing, then they'll be able to repeat that. So Read Write Think has several interactives for different types of writing. One of my favorites is Cube Creator. It has where they can write a bio cube, a mystery cube, and then create your own cube. Now, the reason I like this is because even if your computer doesn't work, let's say that the internet goes down, you can print this PDF. You click down here, you can't see it, but down here it gives you a PDF. This is what it looks like. That's easy to print. It doesn't take too much ink or anything. Or you can just put this up on a LCD projector, and your students can take a piece of paper and fill out these foundations. It's like the foundation of their writing. Creately.com is a really fantastic site that has hundreds of these different diagrams. It has problem solution parts. It has a Venn diagram. It has a SWOT analysis. It has different comparative and contrast. So I like to get a different one. If I can get them through different graphic organizers, then I've introduced them to different ways, different processes, and ways to think about their writing. And I think that's really important, because when you are teaching writing, and the great thing is with language learners, depending if you have mixed abilities, it doesn't matter at this point. The problem is we ask students to write essays and they get scared because a lot of them can't do that huge writing portion. But what they can do is they're able to fill out a graphic organizer. A graphic organizer is a few words. And so I think that's really good. I've never had a problem. That's a good question. Allison says, how do you avoid graphic organizer overload? With web tools, if you're able to use web tools, then it's much, much easier. So one way is when you have, for example, they use a Poplet instead. Kids don't get overloaded because they love using different technologies. Sometimes we do it through Educreations, and then they can record a video of it, of their brainstorming. Sometimes we do it through Google Docs. Sometimes we do. So I try to use different tools to do it with. And that really helps them a lot. So that's why I introduced you to so many different tools, because then it feels like they're learning a new tool, they're having a new experience. So I hope that will be the case with you as well. Now, if you're teaching very young learners, I've showed you a lot of things for adult writing, but how about young learners? Young learners can use graphic organizers as well. The other way is also, and Allison Phillips asked this, but another way is sometimes I get them to do it in groups, and sometimes I get them to fill out the graphic organizer in partners and pairs. So I think that really does help a lot too, as well. So teachknowledge.com has these, but you can easily just copy this format. These are for really young learners. All they fill out is they draw, have to have a snowman, but I use this as an example. They can draw any character on their paper, and then they can do where is he they answer very simple questions. Where is he going, or when he get there? But these can be any kind of question. They can say, what is his name? You can change it to, what is his job? Describe his family. Where does he live? You can ask very simple questions, and it's very easy for your students to fill this out. There are digital writing prompts, so that's one way to really get your students to think about different types of writing. So one part of it is that they don't know the process. You have to walk them through the process. And another part of it is that it's a short amount of time. If you have a 45-minute, an hour classroom, your students have to come up with ideas then. As a writer, and I'm a professional, I've been published twice. I have like 5 other self-published books. I've written novels. I've been writing since I was 7, so I'm a professional writer. And as a professional writer, I struggle with coming up with ideas like this. And so asking students who aren't in the process or practice of writing all the time, because not all our students are, especially a different language, it's hard for them to get ideas. Sometimes we can say, okay, this is the assignment. This is what we're going to be doing. So for example, the argumentative essay that I have my students do. Another one where it's a definition essay. They had to do a definition one. And when they did that, it was important they get time for free flow of brainstorming. So I when they fill out graphic organizers, when they just brainstorm, I don't grade that. They get participation, they turn it in and things like that, because I'm not worried about the grammar and stuff at that point. I'm more worried about what ideas they come up with, and if they can come up with ideas, and also for them to just jot down whatever it is in English that they're thinking of, and to kind of get ideas for the rest of the paper. So I think that's really, really important. They get about 5 minutes to do that. Digital writing prompts, an image or something, can really help stimulate the writing process, especially when it comes to language learners, low literacy. It's really just engaging and helpful. You can even use things like music. Sometimes I'll go and I'll play music and let them think about it and see how they can write with music. So these are some kind of visual writing prompts and challenges that are free sites, and tons of more writing prompts there. So Make Belize Comics is one of them. It has over 350 free printables. So you see how it makes the writing prompt look much different. My students have a journal, so they have ongoing writing. So what they come up with, for example, yeah, exactly. Alexandra says stories are tricky to write. Students usually struggle upcoming ideas to fulfill the word limits for the FCE. Yeah, and other ones as well. So keeping a journal, a daily journal, and this helps with also classroom management. So what happens is, and they get different types of prompts. So I'm showing you different types of prompts here. Look, it's them having a conversation. Sometimes I have them write like what text they would send. They get in pairs, and this is all part of their writing journal. They have an actual like book that they keep, or they keep a blog if you want to do a digital version. Every single day, they know as soon as they walk in my class, they sit down, they look at the prompt. I can have it either in an LCD projector. Sometimes I write it on the board. I'll put a website, a short URL, or something like that. They look, or they see this writing prompt. You can blow it on a board if you don't have a lot of technology, and I have been in those situations. They see it, they complete it in their journal. And then, but after a while, it trains them, and they have different prompts. Sometimes I'll use the ones from the exams. I'll use ones that are very similar to the exam. Some that have happened. So I use a lot of silent stop motion videos inside mine as well. You can find a lot of really short ones that are a minute, 2 minutes long, that they can go watch. She also has writing prompt illustrations and tons of different types of writing prompts. Two of my favorite sites, and they're also aligned to the Common Core, is writingprompts.tumblr.com and photoprompts.tumblr.com. And last time I saw, they may not have been updated, but they have tons of different prompts. And they are aligned to objectives and things like that. So it would be easy to find an objective it would match with. One of the most successful ways I've gotten students to write is through word cloud tools. And there's lots of different types of word clouds out there. In fact, maybe next webinar, will be on the different types of word clouds out there, in different activities you can do with it. But or a future webinar, we're going to post an article on the American TESOL blog about it. So I will give you, in fact, I will give you, you can go to americantesol.com/blogger. And every Monday we do post like a bunch of, I write an article about different websites and things like that, that will give you, that are free, that really help your learners and you. So on this one, I made it with Tagu.com. Tagu is the only one that works with me because it's not necessarily Flash based or Silverlight or anything like that. Wordle.net is a really popular one as well, and it's really good. So what I did was I took an article, a news article, and I just put it in there. I made these some bigger, some less, right? And so when you do that, you can then I show this to students and I tell them they have to write the news article based on this word cloud. Now, of course, you can do this with lots of things. You can do it with song lyrics, and they have to write the song lyrics. You can have them do it with, a story, and they have to write the story. You can just take a bunch of vocabulary and words and tell them, okay, use 5 and put a story in it. Now, the thing about word cloud tools, and I let my students know, is that the main idea is always bigger. The main ideas are bigger. So we know in this one, if we had a workshop, you would be writing this. We know who would be the main character. What would be the main character's name? Can anybody guess this news story, by the way? This is a very famous Texas news story that came out. But you can tell maybe that his name was Ahmed, because that's a bigger, right? And this, what the story was about, was actually that in Texas, he had made a clock and they thought it was a bomb. His teacher thought it was a bomb. So President Obama, lots of people cried out against this, and even he even went to go meet a different president as well, and so it was really good. This was the article. See, Ahmed Mohammed was arrested. He was a 14-year-old student, and he made a homemade clock, but they thought it was, the whole school shut down because his teacher, when he showed him the clock, said, "Oh my gosh, this is a bomb." But it wasn't a bomb. So the Sudanese president, he got to meet him. He got free scholarships, all this stuff, because they were saying, yeah, exactly. So then the students see, and then I usually have them do that in groups because it might be a little bit more difficult. And when they come up with the things together, and if they already know parts of the story, that's okay. I tell them to use that in there. And then we see which group actually got the closest to it. And then they'll win a little treat or something like that. So it's really fun. And it's good because they can read their stories out loud. I have one person read their news stories out loud. Um, and so another part of writing is definitely, okay, at some point you do have to grade their writings. And so it's important that students check their grammar beforehand. One of my favorite writing apps, and I've mentioned it tons of times, it's free. And it is not an app, it's actually just a website. You go to hemingwayapp.com. Of course, it also works because it's HTML5. I think, yeah, sorry. It's been a really long day and dry. You can get it, I think, on your tablets. You can definitely access it on a Chromebook. And you could probably even do it on an iPad. And so what it does is your students just type, and when it types, it highlights everything they type. And when they scroll over the highlighted part, it gives them ideas. It says, you're using too many adjectives. It doesn't look like your adjectives and adverbs. And it doesn't correct it for them. It just gives them ideas on how to change it. And so it really helps them through the process of writing, and it teaches them grammar while creating on it. Your students don't have to register. In fact, you can go there right afterwards, and you can start writing, and you can see how amazing this HemingwayApp.com is. You don't have to register. If you do register, it'll save all the words, it'll save your writings and give you statistics and things like that for free. Grammarly.com, that one's really good. They have premiums as well. It'll check your email, your writings, it'll even check your status updates, all kinds of things. And they have a Chrome extension that's really wonderful. Google is one of my favorite tools for writing. Google Docs, it has this research column, and when you click on research, it even gets them to cite. It gives the automatic APA MLA Chicago style. You can click here, it says cite as insert, and it's that easy. So my students, that was one of the things they struggled with all the time, and it was really difficult for me because they would write these brilliant papers and I would love them, but then all of a sudden I had to take off all these points for the works cited page or the reference or the bibliography, whatever you call it. And so that was very frustrating for me because no matter how many times I walked them through, no matter how many templates I gave them, they were just terrible at it. So it's really good because on this one, they don't have to do much. They can just go, they put it out there, and then they fix it, and it teaches them more about the process. You can click on add-ons, and when you click on add-ons, you're going to see where they can have a bibliography, highlighting, pro writing aid, easy bib, table of contents. There's so many writing tools and examples. And then you can even use different templates. So let's say you want them to write a presentation, a recipe, you can find a template at Google Docs, or just do google.com/templates, and teachers give them for free. You can adapt them, edit them any way you want. They have some for digital storytelling, things like that. There's also bookmarklets and extension. I told you that Grammarly was one. And so these are easy and free to use as well. What you do is you look in the store of your browser. So I use Chrome, but you can get these in Firefox and Safari as well. When you install them, the ones that I recommend is Read and Write. This is a must for English language learners, for those with low literacy, for all teachers. I would say Read Write. It does so many things. It translates, it does grammar, it speaks it'll let them know the words and things like that. I mean, it's so much that it does. Read and Write, it's just fantastic and amazing. So I really love it. And then yes, once again, the Grammarly Chrome extension is wonderful. And Peggy says they sent her emails summarizing different types of errors, which is very good because anytime they have these kind of analytics, what it does is it gets you and your students to start focusing on what their problems are. If you see a bunch of errors that are similar in the past tense or maybe present progressive or something like that, or using, then you can be able to give them exercises and things like that so they can really improve that area, and that way you can differentiate a lot easier. Draft back, it records your writing, so it shows you your writing habits, your writing thoughts, things like that. And quick create allows you to quickly create a Google Doc just by clicking really fast. So when you get your students to blog, there's lots of different blogging platforms. I'm going a little fast here, and one of the reasons why is because there's just so much when it comes to writing, which is a good thing. You know, there's so much. If you go to shellyturtle.com/writing, you're going to find tons more resources. And it's always good to have a lot of free resources that are engaging and get kids excited about writing. So commentsforkids.blogspot.com is where, let's say that you wrote and your students need an audience. And I think an audience is really important. If you get your students blogging, if you get them to post their multimedia essays, scrapbooks, digital portfolios, all of that online, and do exchanges with other students, then it's very empowering. If they know someone's going to see their work, they will take the time to fix the grammar and edit, and they will keep doing it. Whenever I posted something online, my students have always taken the time, and they do it like they'll spend hours just correcting or making sure it's right. They'll redo it again and again and again. I don't even have to tell them to do homework. So a place that you can get comments for blogs and things like that, if you decide to post a site or anything, is go to commentsforkids.blogspot.com and you'll find it. Also, comments for kids, the hashtag. Digital storytelling is really a great way for your students. And when they do that, have them brainstorm. They're going to have to brainstorm a story title, what type of well, more like a genre. Is it going to be horror? Is it going to be action? What is it? Sci-fi? What is it? Materials, characters, plot, a theme, and a setting. So this is the template I came up with for having a video storyboard. So this is digital storytelling with a video. And you can actually find that at bit.ly clay storyboard. I think it's all lowercase, but I did a tiny URL and I don't know why I forgot to put it on there. But if you go there, you should be able to find it. And this is what I use with my students. In fact, this is one of my students. So they fill this out, they fill out the frames, everything like that, and then they're able to make a video. You can use Magisto, you can use Powtoons, you can use Animoto. There's lots of ways they can create a digital video storytelling project. Peer editing. So that's one of the ways that we can get our students to really help each other, and it improves their writing process as well. Now with peer editing, you actually have to walk them through the process as well. So for example, there's a method called two stars and one wish. So what your students do is they have to find two things they really like about the writing, and then they put a wish. A wish is an improvement, how that student can improve the writing. So that's one of the ways to do peer editing. It's a really good method and things like that I really like. Creating a safe environment is really good when you're doing peer editing. So it's important that we get our students to be comfortable with critiques and evaluation, and also what makes a good critique or evaluation. How, and one way is telling and showing them how to write positive statements. Write things that are helpful, goal oriented. Um, something that I do for my students, work on improving the present progressive or whatever it is that they're having problems with for the next one. Work on making the character. But at first, I tell them something very positive. I really like, your comedy here. I think you have good ideas. I really like the plot. I think the plot works really well. And then I go into that. And the way you create a safe environment is, of course, we build a community, icebreakers, cultivate relationships, get the students to know about each other. It's harder for them to, make mean statements and stuff. Their friends, I find. And we can't be tolerant of things like if someone says, we have to tell our kids we're not going to tolerate you writing this is stupid, okay? Because nothing is stupid when it comes to writing, when we're not going to tolerate name calling, anything like that. That doesn't help improve writing, and we have to show them that. We establish those rules for peer feedback, reassess and assessment. So I use a lot of rubrics, writing scores, things like that. Um, Improve motivation. So just making sure that they're motivated to write and things like that. And I want to show you a few reference apps as well. So some of the apps that I think are really great that also work with the works cited and make it easy for you to do a different reference page and things like that is EasyBib. And EasyBib is really cool. If you can use digital devices, it's free. Of course, the free version doesn't do so much. There's also an extension for EasyBib and also an app on Google Docs. So it's free. It has a basic one. It comes out on any device. But one of the ways that I really like to use EasyBib is if you take them to the school library. A lot of times they don't like to do the research there, but with EasyBib and even this other one I'm going to show you that has more options, that's like EasyBib. It's easy for them to get excited about going to this class library or the school library. And the way is that if they can scan, even if they work on a few limited devices, but they each get to scan, then they like that. They get to scan the ISBN and then they see how it has the APA, MLA, and Chicago styles. The other one that I like a little bit more that has more options is this one. It does the same RefMe citations, and I think it's a better app, but that's mine. But EasyBib is also online, and EasyBib is also available as an extension, and I don't think that happens. Um, you know, um, And so it makes it easier for them to cite, create a bibliography. And then, like Peggy was mentioning inside the box, it is important that you go back, you have them go back and they correct it. And that's really important because a lot of these citations, I use it for my own research and stuff. And I always have to constantly go back. I look at the OWL of Purdue and I change it. You can get devices. If you are devices, if you go to YW, it's the Young Writers Program.org, it'll give you tablets during the time when you have during November, every November 1st to 30th. And all you have to do is get your students to all commit to writing for NaNoWriMo. And it's free, it's not anything. So when we are talking about writing, and we're going to wrap up already, it's important we integrate multimedia, make it a ritual, make it continual, give them constant practice, make sure that it's a safe environment. Important to introduce them to different types of processes, the different ways to write, the difference between writing a comparative analysis essay versus an argument essay versus a definition essay versus writing research for grants or versus storyboard. Storytelling in general, or writing creatively. So we teach them all these the processes, the templates, what it looks like, what an email looks like, things like that. Visual literacy, so getting them to identify context clues, things like that. Even within images, what can they tell about an image, dissecting it, looking at it and saying, by looking at the emotions, looking at the color tones, things like that. Teaching them research, give them an audience. They're very motivated to have correct grammar, correct English, improve their English when their projects are seen by others worldwide. Plus, they like the comments and things like that. Citing and attributing accurately. Change it up. So you saw one time I had comics, another a video prompt, another they're doing a graphic. So change it up for them so that way they're not bored. So it isn't too much like one certain type of writing. Plus when we're in life we do different kinds of writing. So it's important to know much of those. Even something like posting up and we did one on grammar, and one of the things I showed was celebrity tweets that they edit. So even things like that is good writing practice because teaching them how to correctly create their status updates or things like that is very important because they do that every day. Using graphic organizers, evaluating resources. And that's it. So thank you all so much for coming today. You can get my book at gum.co/learn to go. It has lots of templates, rubrics, and lots of writing projects, audio projects, video projects, you name it. A lot with devices, but you don't necessarily need a device. You can find a lot of resources free at shellyturtle.com/writing and even slides. So thank you for coming. Next week, I will see you again. We will be coming up with a webinar for Earth Day pretty soon as well. So have